The Moto Guzzi Stelvio has generated a great deal of excitement and interest among motorcycle enthusiasts, and the anticipation continues to mount as the release date approaches. Also because the V100 Mandello, which is still a very valid motorcycle, should not be offended, but the model that can make the real leap in quality on the new Moto Guzzi platform is definitely this platform, which the Stelvio shared with the V100 Mandello, therefore engine and transmission, V-twin engine with 1042cc and 115 HP and shaft drive, which makes this model unique in the segment in which it is inserted. Yes, because to frame the Stelvio well, it's necessary to place it in the correct segment for her, which, to clarify, is the Enduro Midi Maxi, a segment where Ducati Multistrada V2, Suzuki V-Strom 1050, Triumph Tiger 900 work, and why not, Honda Africa Twin. Starting from this assumption, the Moto Guzzi Stelvio and its equipment must be evaluated with absolute respect. Talking about a motorcycle with an electrically adjustable windshield, 70mm travel, and a PFF radar system, which stands for Piaggio Fast Forward, the high-tech division of Piaggio in Boston, enabling Moto Guzzi to have its own radar system instead of buying from third parties. Radar available only in a specific version of Stelvio that includes blind spot assist, lane change assist, emergency braking, and as an optional feature, adaptive cruise control. Since the technical base is common with the Mandello, it is legitimate to expect the entire electronic bouquet that also distinguishes the road sister. Starting from the ride-by-wire multi-map accelerator, there are 4 of them: road, sport, rain, touring, to which is added the off-road mapping, which in this case allows to deactivate the ABS on the rear, and by holding down the button for a long time to deactivate it also on the front axle mappings that obviously manage throttle response, traction control, ABS, which has cornering function, and can therefore also be deactivated. The Stelvio is a true Maxi Enduro, with the classic 1917-inch wheel set, with the rear being important for the category, as it is a 170/60 and mechanical suspensions, adjustable 46mm fork, and generous travel that make the wheels run for 170mm per axle. No semi-active, therefore, at least for now. With these measures, the Stelvio doesn't scare off-road, and for this reason, Moto Guzzi has redesigned the frame, which is not the same as the V100 Mandellos, but is 20% stiffer. Stiffness obtained by first stiffening the steering tube, which is longer than that of the V100 and also thicker, and then also changing the swing arm, which went from a thickness of 5mm to 7mm. The swing arm obviously contains the transmission shaft and the drive shaft, and the attachment to the engine also changes with a stiffer PW, thus stiffening the whole thing. Of all these modifications, the V100 Mandello also benefits from those we could say to the single arm. Other evolutions have seen revisions to the clutch and gearbox with new friction plates for the former and new gears, leverages, and quick shifter management for the latter. Even in this case, evolutions benefiting V100 Mantello. Traveling scares even less. The tank has a capacity of 21 liters, and thanks to consumption that we will verify during the test, but that promise to be quite contained, it should give an interesting autonomy. Other numbers: the weight is 246 kilos in running order, so with a full tank of petrol, and the seat is 830 meters from the ground. But there are 2 more, one lower and one higher, optional and also heated, and now let's go try it. All right, on the Stelvio saddle. The interface will be very familiar to those who know Mandello and have followed us in other videos. The instrumentation remains unchanged, with everything controlled from the comfortable control panel on the left. It's incredibly easy to use, with the right button allowing you to navigate through menus and adjust various functions. For example, you can activate the electric windshield by sliding a switch, or engage the traction control using the cursor, which also manages the cruise control. The control panel provides a seamless and intuitive experience. It's a well-designed setup that ensures convenience and ease of use while riding the Maxi Enduro Guzzi. The mappings can be changed quickly from the right button even while moving. As you can see, there are 5, as we said: rain, off-road, sport, road, and touring. Each one preset. Then let's see. The button above instead is the one that activates or deactivates the EDRL, the LED running light, so everything is very intuitive. Long press on the menu, you enter the vehicle management, confirm, and here you go, intervene on all functions. So on the gear change, LED, activate downshift, emergency braking, calibrate the tires in case you change the tires to make the traction control work well, activate the front radio, activate the rear radar, or deactivate them in various functionalities because you can activate visual and with sound, turn off or activate completely. This button is crucial for controlling multiple functions and ensuring optimal performance and safety. The riding modes instead are all customizable. Here they are preset by Guzzi, but each one can be customized by the user. Practically in off-road mapping, when you see go in off-road mapping, the rear ABS is deactivated on the rear wheel. However, by holding down the button for a long time, the mapping is completely deactivated, including the ABS. Therefore, this bike allows you to completely deactivate the ABS off-road. Let's turn it on and go try it out. First part of the day lunch break here, we are on board the new Stelvio. So here you see me in the Tabernas Desert near Almeria, a place where Sergio Leone's films were shot. It's absolutely amazing and breathtaking. You can do some great off-roading, but today we did very little off-roading. We drove a lot on the road. I take the first notes because, in my opinion, this motorcycle has many things to talk about. First of all, saddle at 830 millimeters. As you can see, I am 1.71. I touch with both feet, not with the sole, but with the tips. Because the entire central section is very slim, the area where the legs rest is well made, so I'll start with ergonomics. These are the initial observations I made. The footrests have a triangulation that creates an angle with the legs that is completely acceptable, at least for my height. The handlebar is located exactly where you would expect it to be. I have to say that the ergonomics are really good. The only minor issue I have to mention is that when riding on the highway with my foot on the toes, as in this case, my heel touches the swing arm. So maybe I would have extended the heel guard a little bit. The gear lever is slightly low to be operated with adventure boots, but it is adjustable with an eccentric. Therefore, this bike accommodates all the numerous adjustments of the V100 Mandello, which are incredibly comfortable. So, in my view, the ergonomics are right on target. The aerodynamic protection is truly excellent. The small deflector here performs its function, and the tank is just wide enough to eliminate the air from the knees. The electric windshield works both in the low position, where there is a bit more turbulence, but nothing annoying, but still for someone like me, the shoulders are still almost covered, both in the highest position that really offers a Gran Turismo protection. In the intermediate position, like now, it has some movement when it catches a bit of wind or the bike hits a small pothole. Not a transcendental experience, but I must say that perhaps it is not aesthetically pleasing. Let's consider the highly functional mirrors, and then I proceed to the engine, which has undergone minimal changes compared to the V100 Mandello. It retains all its distinctive features, boasting an incredibly flexible engine that smoothly transitions without any jerking. The cardan transmission, in my opinion, is currently one of the best options on the market, offering a seamless response without the typical play or elevator effect associated with traditional cardans. It is truly commendable, and from this perspective, Guzzi has undoubtedly taken a significant leap forward. Engine, I said, inherits a lot from V100 model, practically everything, so even the character. If you don't gas him, so you don't always ask for everything. He has a beautiful delivery, very smooth from 2000, pushes well in the middle, also extends quite decisively. You do not need to drown him. I mean, you do not have to ask him for all the gas because the acceleration is a little slow, let's put it that way. In certain situations, when driving a bit fast with a chassis like this, and considering the chassis, You may really like to have an engine that has a little more speed in picking up the revs because the flywheel here is very big and you can feel it when you drive. However, if you want elasticity, you can't have reactivity. In short, the blanket is always a little short when it comes to having both speed and flexibility in this type of situation. Honorable mention to the transmission department. Already in the second version of Mandello that we tested in comparison, we noticed an improvement in the gearbox and quick shifter. Here they have taken a further step forward. Now the gearbox works really well, the quick shifter works really well, the shift times are consistent, it has become very smooth, it practically no longer gets stuck, so the gearbox has undergone a major overhaul, an overhaul that will obviously also benefit the V100 Mandello, those that will arrive in the future with the Euro 5 Plus engine. In short, there has been a lot of work here, and it was the weak point of this engine. It was a new engine created from scratch, so some refinements can be expected. I had high expectations for this bike since I tried the V100 Mandello. I expected that the bike with the 19-inch wheel and a wider lever arm could be more enjoyable to ride and also with different tire sections. Everything I expected here has arrived. The ergonomics, as I was saying, is very centered for me. More leverage. The bike has obviously raised a bit in the front with the 19 and the 170/60 in the back, which is, however, a tire section perhaps too generous for a bike of this horsepower. Maybe it could have been on the 150. But Guzzi likes to put big tires on this platform. I must say that the bike runs really well. The fork and the shock absorber are well calibrated. The bike enters the curve very quickly and changes direction just as quickly. A mass, in short, here in the middle, that the engine is not exactly light, but compared to the V100 Mandello, there is an amazing improvement in terms of driving. You possess abundant emotions, and what I appreciated is the velocity at which the curve is established, along with the bike's capability to maintain the trajectory as if it were tethered by a compass. Therefore, in terms of this aspect, it performs exceptionally. It's something I expected and something they managed to do. So this is, as mentioned, the platform, practically the right bike to make this new Moto Guzzi platform take off. I also have to say good things about the original equipment tires. The Michelin are valid. When you start driving with a bit of attack, a bit of push, then maybe you force the braking inside the curve. The front shows a minimal lift-up effect that, in my opinion, could disappear completely with other types of tires, because when you release the brake at that moment, the bike tends to go down a little faster than you expect. But really, it's a trifle because I've tried these tires on other bikes and they work well overall. There's a good grip at the rear. In short, the profiles between the front and rear speak well. So I have to say that overall they contribute to the nice handling of the Stelvio. Attention, similar to the V100 Mandello, this chassis is highly responsive to the preload of the monoshock. Cycling is always a bit followed from the load perspective, i.e. standard setup without bags. I also tried it without bags. The bike becomes even faster, very incisive. If we mount the bags, we have to follow them with the preload, maybe 5 or 6 clicks, as I did, to rebalance the bike, reload it on the front, and have that typical insertion speed of this bike. But this particular cycling, as noticed on the V100 Mandello, is very sensitive to this preload, so don't let it sit too much. How do I define the Stelvio? After the first test here, now the first morning, I have to say that I like to define it as a bike that fits a man, because it's not too big, it's not too small, it's just the right size. You feel good on it. I like the seat as a triangulation. I also like it because it has plenty of space to move forward and backward. If you want to relax when you're in the saddle for a long time, the passenger is really well placed, so there is vital space for everything. Not too large or heavy, yet not overly exaggerated in size or weight. So we're within the category considering the fact that we also have the heavier drive shaft, and it's a bike that is tailored to the rider. So it does the right things that a bike of this type should do. Other things that I have noted, the brakes are very good. The rear is very good, even if you have to go a bit lower to find it. And the front is also good in terms of power. It is a 2-channel brake system. There is no brake distribution here. Front brakes in the front, rear brake is in the back. It's fine. Maybe the front is a bit too aggressive, but we're really nitpicking. Engine mappings, yes, they are valid. But tourism and road are a bit overlapping in my opinion, because in the end they are 3 levels of engine. One is used in off-road, one in sports. That is level 3 in off-road, level 2 between tourism and road, level 1 in sport, which is a little more responsive. There are no epochal differences, in my opinion, beyond a slightly more prompt response, because then when you go to sync the throttle, the engine behaves more or less the same in all mappings. So maybe there could have been one less, because really road and tourism are actually a bit overlapping. But maybe if one day, we don't know, a version of Stelvio with semi-active could arrive, then maybe they will make a little more sense. Rightly so, since they are all widely customizable, so every mapping is actually a user mapping that can be made as desired. I begin reading the chapter about the Aras part, and I must express my sincere admiration for Moto Guzzi. They have done an exceptional job developing the system in-house in collaboration with Piaggio Fast Forward. The braking assistant and forward collision warning implemented by Moto Guzzi are, without a doubt, the most impressive I have encountered in all my motorcycle testing experiences. He never enters randomly. I kept him on series all day. I was in the middle of the group. I approached, I moved away. In the driven parts where with motorcycles inevitably you get closer, you get away, it never enters. It entered when needed due to a car behind the curve. In short, there was an emergency braking and he intervened. So from this perspective, the brake assist system is highly effective and the blind spot detection is extremely sensitive, possibly even overly sensitive as it frequently activates while driving, although it does provide a sufficiently noticeable warning light. Additionally, I would like to highlight that the forward collision system initially signals visually and subsequently audibly, making it potentially the optimal solution for this system, potentially even surpassing the effectiveness of haptic braking, such as the one utilized by the BMW GS1300, as the buzzer compels the driver to awaken and apply the brakes. For now, I'll stop here. Now I'm going to have lunch. I'll continue with the tour. See you at the end of the tour where we'll make a little conclusion. I'll see if there's anything to add or modify after having done another stretch of road, a bit of highway. Let's go ahead. Well, the day is over and you can also see it from the long shadows. Here we are on the beach of Almeria, where we departed this morning to continue on a route through Andalusia. It was a journey of over 1,800 meters with truly beautiful roads spanning 250 kilometers. What to say? Then I confirm everything I said in the first stop. In the first stop, when I made the first video intervention, all the work that has been done on the Stelvio is a work of high quality. I really like this bike. I had very high expectations for her after trying the V100 Mandello, because I was sure that with this configuration, this bike would have maintained its stability characteristics. And in fact, it has maintained them, because in terms of stability, we are 10 out of 10. Adding, however, that drivability that on the V100 Mandello instead is slightly lower than what one might expect. We have also done some very guided, very flowing routes with big bends. Moreover, the ground light is really of the highest level. Really important bends are pulled, but also very tight sections with curves in succession, low speed, where precisely the V100 Mandello may show a bit of its side. Instead, with the Stelvio, none of this, very maneuverable. It's a bike, as I said, the right size. I appreciate its proportions due to the width of the tank, the positioning in the saddle, the available space, and the passenger area, which remains satisfactory. As you know, in the press tests, we are unable to test the motorcycles with a passenger. I tried sitting behind myself. Well, I must say that the passenger handles are well placed, the footrests are vibration-free, there is adequate space between the foot and the bag. In short, I must say that it is suitable. Then after, obviously when we do the 1,000-kilometer width, or however, maybe during the comparisons, we will also delve into the passenger issue as well as the night lighting issue, because as you can see today, it was not possible to do it. Bike that confirms, therefore, the expectations. Aerodynamic protection, I must say, very valid. At 130 kilometers per hour, which is always an interesting fact, the engine is split at 5,000 RPM. No active cruise control, optional and not installed. Tried traditional cruise control on this motorcycle without active control feature. I must say that it works well, is very easy to use, and even when you go out with the extra stroke, the exit is very smooth, so there is nothing to complain about in regards to this thing. Manageability, therefore, certainly of a high level. Credit also goes to Michelin, which are definitely very light tires with excellent grip, with a front end that I confirm has a subtle tendency to have a lift-up effect when you try to enter with the brakes in hand, and maybe a little lack of homogeneity when you release the brake entering the curve. Nothing really, because we are talking about high-level tires anyway, but that thing is there, and I'm sure that if we use this bike with other tires, we could even remove that very small flaw in the handling, because for the rest, the chassis is really excellent. I went a little further with the preload, as I told you. I rode it almost all day with the suitcases. I also tried it without them, but going with the preload at 15 clicks, I lifted the rear a bit. The bike leaned a bit on the front. The fog doesn't blame this thing. The fog works well, I must say. I didn't have to intervene. I liked it for how it is supported during braking, for how it flows, how it starts. So in terms of comfort, I would say we're good. Well-integrated bags inside the bike with the classic Guzzi attachment of the V100 Mandello, which is replicated here. So they are very well inserted. They are not felt. They do not vibrate. As I said, stability is at a very high level, gear shift and clutch, because even that vibration that was felt on the lever when you pulled the clutch with the bike in neutral on the V100 Mandello has completely disappeared. So the work on the clutch is approved. Work on the completely approved change so that the closing remains a bike that fits into a really highly competitive segment, but at the same time, it has all the credentials to stand out. I highly recommend trying it, guys, because it truly is a bike that is worth being tried. In terms of improvements, if I had to point out some small things to be fixed, it would be the slight vibration that the windshield has when it is not in the two extreme positions. Although it is not a defect per se, it is something that I personally do not like to see. The front brake is a bit too aggressive, which may be a little too much for a bike that is intended for off-roading. However, it is still possible to ride on the beach without much difficulty. It is important to note that this bike is not suitable for more extreme off-roading activities like the Camel Trophy. Additionally, if I were riding a Guzzi, I would look for a small storage compartment to keep my phone securely inside the bike, possibly using the Moto Guzzi Mia app for navigation. Unfortunately, I was unable to test this feature as the app was not connected, and it requires an additional module that must be purchased separately. Riding on the suitability of this bike for your needs. Ergonomics very good, air protection very good, vibrations practically almost non-existent on the footrests, on the saddle. There is a bit of movement on the handlebars, but it is more the pulsation of the engine, so I do not consider them vibrations from this perspective. Motorcycle absolutely promoted. I really like the chassis. I really like the rear brake, maybe too many mappings. In short, the touring and road are a bit overlapping. The difference in throttle response between throttle response 1 and throttle response 2 is there, but it's not something so consistent. So in the desired, I repeat, maybe a little gear lever. And then talking a bit with the technicians here at Moto Guzzi, if I had to make a request, I would ask for an engine that doesn't lack torque, but that takes a little less time, that has a little less inertia in going up and down in revs. Also, because then the overturning inertia, you know that the engine shaft works in this direction, is imperceptible when driving. Very little. The only thing is that when you go full throttle or have medium revs or medium openings, this engine behaves really well when you want to push it. It makes you wait a bit, and what I noticed in terms of weight, since the bike weighs a bit more than the V100 Mandello, is that above 7,000 to reach 10,000, well, it takes a little more time with the Stelvio compared to the Mandello. So much so that today I don't think I've ever exceeded 8,000 RPM unless I went just to test the tachometer. In short, you drive well from 4 to 7,000 where there is the meat of this engine, which I repeat is super elastic. You can put it in sixth gear at 40 km/h and it doesn't jerk at all. And it has a cardan transmission, which in my opinion is one of the best in the industry. It's all comments down here. If you have something to say, I'll wait for you here. I hope I have satisfied all your curiosities about the Moto Guzzi Stelvio. Follow us because we're working hard and nothing. We'll see you down here in the comments. And anyway, if not, see you in the next video. Bye.